She's been a wife, a mother, a scientist, and a warrior. But above all, she will always be Dejah Thoris, Princess of Mars.
Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
So let's get ready to blast us some pop culture here. Good evening, everybody. I am your host, R.J. Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com, and we are looking at the first two issues of Dynamite Entertainment's Dejah Thoris. No subtitle, no pretext, just Dejah Thoris. This one comes to us courtesy of Dan Abnett as the writer and Vasco Georgiev as the illustrator. The cover on this first one is by Lucio Perillo. When this book opens, we find Dejah Thoris uncharacteristically clothed. If anybody knows anything about Dejah Thoris, the main female protagonist of Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter Warlord of Mars series, we know that she tends to go around in about 5% of what a normal Earth woman would wear. Basically just covering the essentials and just the essentials. But since she's in an ice-frozen wasteland, it makes sense that she might wear a cloak and something a little bit more form-fitting, which is how we find her here, studying this frozen wasteland and trying to find out why Mars is dying. Now, of course, they're always going to refer to it as Barsoom. We here on Earth called it Mars. They had their own name for it. And as she's digging up a canister from the ice, she gets attacked by one of the creatures there. It looks like a four-legged polar bear with tusks. Now I say four-legged, I mean four legs in the front, still got the two legs in the back. So it's got 6 legs total. And it's called an apt. Now she's reverting into warrior mode here, which she does by pulling out 2 looks like Martian pistols, and firing off 6 shots. She takes the thing down just in time for her bodyguard to show up. Well, his name's Kantos Khan, and he's also red-skinned like her. He's also always drawn with a bit of an embarrassed look to his face. He's looking off to the side. He's got a simpering little grin. He's smitten with his charge of taking care of Dejah Thoris, and honestly, who wouldn't be? He's a big strapping guy too. He asks about the findings once he makes sure she's okay, and she says that they are just as bad as she thought. So they are leaving the north of Barsoom, subtitled in The Last Days. Abnett then takes us to Gethal, half a world away, his own words, and we are then introduced to the characters of Tara, Queen of Gethal, and her daughter Lana. Now, it took me a second to figure this out, and I'm kind of ashamed of that, but I never realized the passage of time in the Burroughs novels contained people who were so well preserved, because Tara is Dejah Thoris's daughter, and Lana is Dejah Thoris's granddaughter. So when all you guys are giving the male gaze to those wonderfully painted covers of Dejah Thoris comics, remember, she's a granny. Yeah, that put a crimp in your plans, didn't it? Anyway, Tara is sending Lana off to bring everybody to Gethal, because Gethal is well defended, and there is a new Jedak sitting on the throne since the Jasum has left. The Jasum is, for some reason, code for John Carter. Anytime there's a possibility that John Carter is going to be brought up, there's an interruption. His name is not used. I don't know if perhaps Dynamite doesn't have the license to him for right now again, but retained the Dejah Thoris license and everything else. That would be kind of strange if they were able to do that, but it looks that way, just given the way they have to dance around his disappearance and not mentioning his name. So Lana's going to be sent to the other cities to bring back her other grandsires and Dejah Thoris, and they know that Dejah's not going to be happy about it. One of the things about Lana and Tara is that because they are descendants of the Jasum, they are able to take these superhuman leaps. John Carter, of course, being the predecessor of Superman, and we have an entire article about that on criticalblast.com if you'd like to look that up, called The Men Before Superman. John Carter was on a world with lesser gravity, so his muscles were more developed, having grown up on the heavier gravity of Earth, and under lighter gravity he was able to leap tall buildings as he fought these people that he was much stronger than. Apparently that's a genetic trait. You don't have to be raised on the gravity, and Lana and Tara are also a bit of a superhuman couple. Meanwhile, the Tharks, which are the green Martians, the green four-armed Martians, also have a new leader. He's the new Jedak. Feeling a lot like I'm reading Dune here for some reason. There's a lot of... This whole book is political intrigue. Now, it used to be that Tarkis was the Jedak. He was the leader of the Tharks, and now he has been deposed, and this new guy's in charge. Tarkis is introduced here, as well as his daughter, and I don't know. I think I was just more used to the covers of the old paperback novels, plus the representations of Tarkis in the Marvel Comics series Warlord of Mars. But I'm not used to him looking so desiccated and twig-like. He looks very much like a praying mantis here, whereas before he was always represented as very large and very bulky, larger than a human would be, which is why the Tharks presented such a visibly physical threat to John Carter, the human, and the Red Martians, who were also human, except for the reddish tone of their skin. We then cut back to Dejah Thoris, who is back in Helium, the capital city of Mars, and she's going to the new Jedak, and she is wearing much more Dejah Thoris kind of clothing now. Basically, she has two pieces of golden tape across her nipples and a loincloth. And we do read here that this is actually the traditional way to present oneself to the leader, bare-skinned, as a sign of subservience and honor. So that's the way the Martian cookie crumbles, I guess. It certainly made for great pulp reading back in the day, and we know who the audience is even today. Anyway, she's going to this new Jedak. He's trying to say that, hey, yeah, we know you're talking about the climate of Barsoom is changing. It's a myth. It's, we have cold days. It's very much red man bad, orange man bad, whatever color he is, he's bad. And she doesn't quite get through to him, but he does allow her to go to the factory she wants to investigate to run some more findings, the atmosphere factory. Unfortunately, while he's letting her do this, he's being visited by another queen from another place in Mars. She's more magic based. She's a witch, and she wants to make sure that Dejah Thoris fails in her mission. So he sets up an assassination attempt on her by basically allowing this secure facility to become unsecure. And at the end of that first issue, she's being attacked by more gigantic moles / polar bear creatures that are climbing through the building. They're coming after her. Which brings us into the second issue, which is also written by Dan Abnett with the art by Vasco Georgiev and with another cover by Lucio Perillo. Now, there are variants, but the Perillo covers are wonderfully painted. They're very portraitesque. You can't really go wrong with the cover of any of the Dejah Thoris books. Now, the interior art by Georgiev is passable. It's passable comic art. It's good. It's not sloppy, cartoony. It's not quite the quality of the covers, but the covers are, that's where you put the money. That's where you're trying to draw the eye when you're sitting on a shelf with hundreds of other covers. So when you've put the money into the cover, you kind of slice into the budget. Not that Georgiev is like low budget or anything. It's just not quite as detailed as you would like to see, based on what prompted you to buy the book in the first place. So, we've got Dejah Thoris here in the factory with her bodyguard. They're trying to find things out, and of course they hear the polar bear mole giant things coming at them. They can't fire weapons in there because it's a very delicate factory, and if you destroy the thing that's creating the atmosphere in Mars, then Mars has no atmosphere and everybody dies, and that's not a good thing. So most of the book is them being chased through this factory by the bears. Then we go to the city of Patarth for some more political intrigue. Tyra has gone there, and she's met by Thuvia, Maid of Mars, had her own book in the series. Thuvia was married to Tara's brother, and he is presumed dead. He's been missing a long time. So Thuvia is still in mourning. She gives Tara a great big hug because she looks so much like her brother. It kind of sets her off emotionally again. Tara tells her that she's there to take Thuvia and her parents and the rest of the royal family to Gathol for protection. They're not going to like it, and she wants to stay in where she's at because if her husband does come back, then he'll be able to find her there. But she's there for her grandparents, and yeah, that's right. Tara's there for her grandparents, the grandsires, who are even older than Dejah Thoris, and none of them look like they're out of their 30s. So Mars is apparently the kind of place to raise your kids because you will be well preserved. We finish off the chase scene in the atmosphere factory, and this is where Dejah Thoris has her fat pulled out of the fire by her granddaughter Lana. In fact, Lana even says, "Hello, Grandma Dejah," and then she does some superhuman leaps and punches out the giant polar bear mole creatures, because, as it says, the blood of Jasum flows in the veins of Dejah Thoris's grandchild, just as it does in Dejah's son Kartoris and her daughter Tara, which tells us right away that it is the blood of John Carter that has been genetically passed on to these certain Barsoomians that allows them to be super Barsoomian, the greatest warriors on Mars. It's interesting. They actually say the greatest warriors of Mars in the text here instead of the greatest warriors of Barsoom. I think Dan Abnett kind of fell out of Barsoom speak there and started thinking like a human again, because they never refer to it as Mars. They always refer to it as Barsoom. But Dejah's not going to be out of the fight and rescued. She's still got her sword out and cutting tendons and drawing blood, and pretty much she figures out that this was an assassination by proxy. She knows that she's been set up, and as she's realizing that, Thuvia and her parents, the royal family, are being told that they should leave, but before they can make a decision, the city is beset by yet another race of Barsoomians, very tall, very white, wearing armor and carrying atomic axes. So this series of Dejah Thoris so far is very much a political intrigue kind of novel. There is some action. Some of the action is kind of drawn out longer than it should be, and it should be focused more on Dejah Thoris, I would hope, but it at least does stay on the John Carter family line. So whenever we do deviate from Dejah Thoris, we are at least with her children or her grandchildren. And if you are, up on your Edgar Rice Burroughs and the entire John Carter line, you'll know these people, and it helps expand that world that was created. It takes us beyond everything that was done before, and by my eyes, it stays true to what was done before. The characters are written in character. I've just never been one for political intrigue stories that are so obvious. Now, there's probably machinations going on that I still haven't got a full grasp on yet. I don't know who these allies are of the new Jeddak, and it's certainly going to be a challenge for Dejah Thoris to be able to rally the troops and take back the throne, if that's what she intends to do. All indications are that this was a peaceful transfer of power, so it may be a very unpeaceful retake of the power, which is what I'm expecting once everybody figures out that the new Jeddak is a very dirty, bad man. So this review comes by way of reader request. We had somebody on one of our videos asking us what we thought of Dejah Thoris, and we had access to the book, so we said, well, why don't we just read them and we'll let you know what they are. If you have anything that you would like to get our opinion on, have us go in depth on and analyze it, please let us know in the comments. That greatly helps us out. It lets us know not only what you want, but it also lets YouTube know that people are here for us, and it helps YouTube to grow our channel. We are, of course, trying to subscribe, so if you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button, and that will grow our audience. We are hopeful to reach as many of you as possible. We love what we do here, and we would love doing it more often if we knew that there were people who were waiting for us to talk.